Hey everybody, welcome to the video. Some hot breaking news coming out of the Korean Peninsula. It was on December 9th, just yesterday, as the time of this video being made, that South Korea scrambled fighter jets to intercept 9. Not 1, not 2. When 1 or 2 won't do the job, how about 9? 9 foreign warplanes. Here's the kicker though, 7 from Russia, 2 from China, and they were messing around in their KADIZ, the Korea Air Defense Identification Zone, and that's when aircraft need to identify themselves, and it's a little bit of a poke of the bear when you fly into another country's KADIZ. Look at what's happening in Venezuela, definitely poking the Maduro regime there. This is a similar thing that China is doing to put pressure on all the different partners in the area that might be partnered with the US. So the US partners, not China's partners. But this isn't just a flyby, it's a high-stakes standoff in one of the world's hottest regions now. We've been focused on Venezuela for a long time, but right now, probably an even hotter region is the Pacific, with China and Russia teaming up. I mean, it's pretty close. I mean, carrier strike group in the Caribbean, okay, fine. It's pretty much even. But you're going to want to stay to the end of this video because we'll dive into the jets, a little dab, you know me, a little dab into the geopolitics, and then a couple scenarios that show how this could go down and go down fast, how it could actually go south very fast. So from the cockpit tech to the strategic fallout, we're going to break down why this matters and what happens if things escalate. So it looks like someone's trying to flex their wings, and in this case, it's Russia and it's China teaming up as the dynamic duo. They're like the brothers and stepbrothers, pretending that they're best friends. I mean, maybe they are slightly best friends. Maybe they do both love guacamole. But at this point, it's getting to a phase where them teaming up is kind of sending a bit of a message, because if they do team up and then they try to take out Taiwan, they try to execute strikes in the South China Sea, now you're really looking at a conundrum that really hasn't been thought a lot about before. Because we've thought a lot about China itself taking Taiwan, but what about Russia and China teaming up and taking Taiwan? That's a whole different ballgame, my friends. But let's get into the hardware. You know me, I like to get into that hardware. South Korea, they likely rolled out, this hasn't been exactly confirmed, but here's my thoughts, an F-15K Slam Eagle, which just sounds cool. Why not name it the Slam Eagle? That sounds awesome. Or F-16 Vipers to meet the Intruders to go up and intercept them. We don't know how close they got as of yet, but I would guess likely very close if it's in the KADIZ, because that's airspace where Korea feels comfortable getting their jets very close and saying, hey, don't mess with us. Don't come any closer than what you are right now. The F-15K, that is a souped up F-15E Strike Eagle. Great looking jet, dark gray jet. I might be a little bit biased having flown that F-15E, but looking at what Korea has done to it, it looks like a highly capable aircraft, some advanced avionics. It's got that twin engine, all-weather capability. And to me, it is really a beast for not what you might think. Some people pretty much think the F-15E Strike Eagle is just air to ground. But to me, its air superiority ability is unmatched. It's right on par with the F-15C when it comes to beyond visual range. So being able to sling air-to-air missiles long distances, which is mainly what you would be doing this day and age. In a dogfight, it's not going to be quite as maneuverable as the F-15C just because she's a big girl. The F-15E is slightly large, and that's okay. We love her. We love her for it. But it's big because it carries a lot of stuff and a lot of gas, and that's why it's a beast. The beast that it is. But it's built for air superiority, in my opinion, and then ground strikes similarly definitely built to do that as well. It can hit Mach 2.0 or about 1,700 miles per hour. It has a range of 1,800 miles, which is huge when you're dealing with alert launches, you're going up, you're waiting for an aircraft to enter the KADIZ. This jet really gives you the ability to loiter, hang out, and just wait for the party to start. And I'm sure that's what these F-15E pilots in Korea thought about. They're like, okay, you never know when it could be the real deal. You never know when PL-15s are going to sling off Chinese jets, and they just decide one day to flip the switch. I mean, definitely a rare situation, but it's likely coming, you know, when it comes to that South China Sea scenario. It uses external tanks. The external tanks are great. Gives it the ability to carry about 5,000 extra pounds in each of the tanks, so about 10,000 extra pounds there. And it's got CFTs, conformal fuel tanks, which also carry about 4,000 pounds of gas. So just a beautiful jet when it comes to the amount of range it has, the amount of fuel it can carry. And then it's got an ASA radar that's integrated, likely into these Korean models. I'm not sure it is integrated into the US models, APG-82, great radar, massive AESA radar. So hopefully they have that. I wouldn't be surprised if they have that. It can track multiple targets at about 100 nautical miles. So a beast that carries AIM-9Xs, AIM-120s, and then the F-16 is also an option for them. So the F-16 is a single-engine multi-role fighter. It's a nimbler version of that F-15E. I feel a comparison video coming, F-15E versus F-16. All right, fine, twist my arm. Make me talk about fighter jets. How dare you? But that F-16's likely got an APG-68 radar, which is an active phased grid radar that shines for closer in engagements than what the F-15K would. Both of those would carry the AIM-120 AMRAAM. We know the F-16 carries it on those outboard pylons on the end of the wings. That's a medium-range missile. And then you've got that AIM-9X infrared seeker missile. That is what likely Korea sent up to go up against the bear and the dragon, Russia and China. This sounds like an MMA cage fight of epic proportions. And speaking of that, what did Russia send up? What did China send up? Here's my thoughts. I don't have any clear-cut images yet. I'll keep you posted as those roll in, but Russia likely sent in two 95 Bear bombers with Su-35 Flanker E fighters. The Tu-95 is a 4-engine turboprop, definitely a Cold War icon, but think B-52 for the U.S. That's their go-to. That's their bread and butter. That's their pickup truck of bombers. A 9,000-mile range. The turboprop is very efficient, so that's pretty epic. I mean, you can say what you want about Russian air power, but a 9,000-mile range, yeah, they're going to want to have an espresso maker and a restroom on that thing. It cruises at 440 miles per hour, so a little bit slow, but it does pack cruise missiles. So it can be going slow, and then it can launch a long-range cruise missile off of one of its wings, and that bad boy ain't gonna go slow, to put it in a technical term. And then the Su-35, which was likely escorting this entire package. Since Russia has Su-35s, China has versions of Su-35s. They have a lot of different adaptations of that Su-35. Could have been Chinese pilots in it, could have been Russian pilots in it. At this point, yeah, cats are sleeping with dogs. We don't really know who's who. But that's a 4.5 gen fighter that hits 1,500 miles per hour. 2,800 nautical mile range. It uses an Urbis E radar to track targets at about 200 nautical miles, so they claim. China probably flew H-6 bombers in conjunction with the Tu-95, and they probably flew their variant of the Su-35 just for the similarities of the fighter jets, but they could also fly J-16s or J-20s. Those are their multi-role jets that have about a 2,000 nautical mile range each, about a 1,500 nautical mile top speed. So those are serious power projector jets. And when you look at this package, this is a pretty epic strike package. So who are they preparing for? Taiwan sitting there like, guys, yeah, this is not cool. This is not cool, guys. And Taiwan's right. That isn't cool. Showing that they can team up like this is a flex on epic proportions. And yeah, they're going up into the Korean identification zone, but that could be anybody on any given day. So let's do a little bit of a weapons tech breakdown. You guys know I love weapons. I can't deny it. The F-15K and the F-16s, those pack that AMRAAM, that AMWAM, you guys know what I mean. It's that AIM-120 AMRAAM with a over 50 nautical mile range, active radar homing. They guide themselves for the most part. The AIM-9X Sidewinder close-in fights, those uses infrared signatures for locks. Those can probably lock at over 10 nautical miles. And then the ECM, Electronic Countermeasure Suite on the F-15K, that can be used to jam enemy radars and do decoys. So they could basically tell the enemy they're somewhere else. And then HMDs, helmet-mounted displays, those that pilots lock targets by just looking at them, which is huge, especially when you're getting into a scrap like this up in that contested airspace. But hey, Russia's got to vote. The Su-35 for Russia and China, China's version. Su-30, Su-33, Su-35. China's basically flying the Su-30 MKK, likely, but very similar. That carries the R-77 missile. So like an AMRAAM, probably about a 50 to 100 nautical mile range, got an active radar seeker on it, and then the Tu-95 can haul KH-55 cruise missiles. So again, you might see that bomber out over the coast, looks harmless. Those KH-55s can fly 1,800 miles plus, and they're subsonic, so maybe a little bit harder to detect. They can be nuclear or conventional. And then China's J-16 uses PL-15 missiles. Those can reach out to what China claims to be 190 nautical miles. Wow, really, guys? But hey, maybe they're telling the truth. Maybe they're not. Leave it to China. China bending the truth? No, that's never happened before. Oh, China, we love you. But with dual pulse motors on that thing, it could probably reach out relatively far. The H-6 carries CJ-20 cruise missiles. So again, a version of those Russian cruise missiles, 1,500 nautical mile range on those. And then both sides in this conflict use AESA radars. Those are used to detect and to jam. So in this fight, it pretty much looks like everyone brought their big guns to the party. But why the trouble? Who's actually causing the trouble? Well, China and Russia sent 2 aircraft from China, 7 from Russia, into the KADIZ. And that's a buffer zone in international airspace that South Korea monitors. This is a standard for their joint strategic air patrols. Since 2019, they test reactions and then they show off their air power and their ability to fly together. So on December 9th, their planes hung out for over an hour, weaving in and out of South Korea's east and south coasts. No territorial airspace was violated as of yet. No reports of that as of yet. And supposedly no radar locking happened. But with an AESA radar, you don't exactly have to lock them up to go ahead and take care of business. But China's J-16s were said to recently have locked onto Japanese F-15s near Okinawa a few days prior. So China's not afraid to go ahead and just lock on with their 4th generation jets. But let's get to something that you guys have all been waiting for. And that is an acronym that I've been waiting to drop for probably months now. And that acronym is Strategic High Endurance Nuisance Air Navigation Involving Goated Adversary National Security. Shenanigans. You're welcome. That's the top acronym I've ever dropped on my channel. But operationally, what I'm trying to say here is it's poking the bear for leverage. So they want to show Korea that they own that entire area, and they want to show that they're tight with China. China and Russia are tight together, but here's another kicker. They want to show North Korea that they're there to help support North Korea, maybe for some deals that Russia and China and North Korea have going down. So basically signaling that they can crowd South Korea's doorstep from the opposite side of where North Korea is at. So Beijing-Moscow ties are now stronger than we've probably ever seen them, and that makes everybody a little bit nervous. We're a little bit nervous. You guys are kind of like the meathead who's on steroids that can't control their temper. So, and you also have nuclear weapons. So don't give nuclear weapons to that meathead at the gym who can't control his temper. That's the lesson I'm trying to tell you guys with this video. Okay, let's do a few hypothetical situations. So let's talk about South Korea tracking another Chinese-Russian patrol, 4 Su-35s, 2 J-20s in the KADIZ over the EC. South Korea sends 2 F-15Ks to shadow. A Russian Su-35 is showing off and swings within 100 feet of the F-15K. The South Korean pilot, thinking this is a hostile act, locks on an AIM-120 but holds the fire. The Russian Su-35 RWR radar warning receiver blares, and they assume it's go time. They think that the missile is off the rail. They have poor rearward visibility, so maybe they think they've been shot at. They pop a flare and they try to get out of there, but it's an active radar missile. They don't know that yet, though. The F-15K pilot thinks that a whole bunch of flares coming off of the jet are a missile that pilot is shooting that's going behind them. So at this point, it's pandemonium. And when it comes to aerial warfare, anything can happen because there's no rules when it comes to a knife fight in a phone booth. So what does that F-15K pilot do? They unleash an AIM-120 that smashes into that Su-35. Now, Seoul and Moscow's ground controllers are on the hotline, but at this point, no one knows what's really gone down. This is a trigger, and this is a mess that could spark an even bigger conflict since there's other members of the formation of that Su-35. So this is a situation that they want to avoid at all costs, but when it comes to sending fighter jets into that ADIZ with bombers there, this is a situation that could happen. Let's go to the next situation. So we'll talk about something that escalates a little further. So China and Russia send 2 Tu-95s, 2 H-6 bombers, and 3 J-20s near the Dokdo Islands, a South Korean-Japan flashpoint. South Korea scrambles 4 F-16s, and Japan, touchy about it, sends 2 F-15Js. The Chinese J-20s lock PL-15 radars onto the Japanese, just like they did just a few days ago. That actually happened. That's real. So Japan's pilots lock back, and this starts to escalate fast. South Korea's F-16s, they try to calm things down over the radio, but a Russian Tu-95 drops a buoy near Dokdo, which South Korea sees as a territorial middle finger. Pretty much that middle finger when you're at the football game and you got that number 1 sign. This would be the version of that, just with the middle finger. And then the J-20 pilot misreads it and fires a warning shot past the F-16's nose. No hits, but now this hotline is on fire. And again, it could go down where that F-15 pilot from Japan and the F-16 pilot from Korea now team up to go 2 versus 1 or 2v2 versus those J-20s from China. And again, the hotline would be ablaze, talking about, hey, let's de-escalate. But again, this is poking the bear, and this is a situation that we could see go down any day now. So that's the story, guys. That's South Korea's jets and their scramble on December 9th. 9 Chinese and Russian warplanes tested the KADIZ. South Korea's F-15K showed up. They showed up for the battle, and they did really well. They did what they were supposed to do. They didn't escalate, but they kept the other side from feeling, a little bit too comfortable. But remember, this is all about power. It's all about alliances, and this is a thin line where miscalculation could happen at any moment. And you've got North Korea, you've got Japan, the US, all these different geopolitical figures in the area could spark off an entire conflict in that region, not to mention the South China Sea conflict, which 2027 is the rumor of when that's going to happen. I'll keep you updated more as that develops. Let me know if you like these breakdowns of what's happening in Asia's skies, and I'll keep you posted on how this powder keg is developing. So thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on X. Would love to say hi to you over there. And then most of all, if you would, just watch this video right here. When you watch this video right here, helps the channel grow exponentially, and I would just greatly appreciate it. So I'll see you on this video right here. This is Ryan, also known as Max Afterburner, signing off.